Hi, and welcome back to the Future of Figure Skating podcast. My name's Anna Keller, and this episode was recorded live from the European Championships in Kaunas, Lithuania. My guest was Johanna Allik. Johanna was a member of the Estonian national team. She skated on the Junior Grand Prix as a single skater, went to Junior Worlds as an ice dancer, and then switched back to singles again before she retired. What I wanted to talk to her about, though, was her career since she's finished competitive skating. She started the company JIV Sports with her mother. They make figure skating apparel and national team jackets for a number of countries, including the US. And she's recently written a book called The Book of Figure Skating, and it is a coffee table book that looks at all different facets of the sport. It includes some of her story, interviews that she's done with different figures in skating, and is full of lots of great information. We had a great time talking in Kaunas, and I hope that you enjoy the conversation.
We're here at the end of the European Championships. I'm joined today by Johanna Allik. Really excited to have this conversation. You're figure skater, you're now a business owner and the author of a book, and you have done really great things sharing your story and other people's skating stories. But first off, I want to talk a little bit with you about your experience here at European, because you're Estonian, you were a competitive skater for Estonia, and we had Alexander Selevko winning the first medal at Europeans for an Estonian skater, and then Nina Petrakina earlier this season making history on the Grand Prix. And so just what has that experience been like for you being here? Have there been celebrations?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. This is very exciting for me as well to sit in the press conference. So that's awesome. Thank you. And speaking of Estonian skating, like, we've all been on cloud nine since that happened. Like, to also see Alexander do it is because I know him for years now. Like, I've seen him basically grow up, and he's been through like so much. Both of the brothers have been through so much, especially on this season as well. He started injured, and I mean, they're very close with Mikhail, his brother, and his brother lost skates at competitions. Like, there's been so many ups and downs for these two, and I know for a fact that I think Sasha, Alexander, he's had some, like, he's 23 and he's been trying to make it for so long. And I think he's maybe had some also like demotivation at times. And then to just have this happen almost in front of a home crowd, like, we all stayed up until 3 a.m. just because we couldn't sleep that night. And we were so excited. Like, I spoke to so many Estonians. I spoke to him. He was up, I think, until 4 a.m. It's just like, it's so wonderful. And it's, of course, we all miss Nina. We wish she was here. Yeah. Thankfully, she's healing. She's already working out. And I think she's going on the ice very soon. So I think she'll be at Worlds and she'll prove everyone what she's made of, because I mean, that girl is tough. Like, it's what she's been through is on a whole other level ever since Junior Worlds. And I was also at Skate America witnessing it. And I think for a nation that's 1.3 million people, and to have these two shine in the same season is, I mean, honestly, these are like my highlights of like what I've seen in skating. So I think that says something.
It's so wonderful. And just seeing, here, like, I was thinking about two of my narratives from Europeans. One is like the amazingness of Estonian and Belgian skating, given these like two small countries. How are they really growing such amazing figure skaters together? And then the story of persistence also, because I mean, it's obviously when you look at someone like Matteo Guarise winning his first European medal at like age 35, and someone who's worked for so long. But I think we can see those, like, that story in so many people's stories here. So it's definitely
very inspiring, that's for sure. And I mean, when it comes to Belgium, I actually live in Belgium. So I'm very close with both of the teams. And just to, like, their situation is even crazier with the rinks and how they train in like 4 or 5 different rinks, and not knowing where you're going to be the next day is also just like, it's like mind blowing that like you don't just have a locker at the rink where you keep a skate. Like even that's not normal for them. They have to drive hundreds of kilometers every day to do the sport, and to be at that level is just, it's like I can't believe it even, you know. So it's crazy. It's really amazing.
So how do you explain the sort of rise of Estonian skating? I mean, what has it changed from when you were skating? What was your experience like, and compared to what it is for the skaters now?
Well, I think what really helped Estonian skating was the opening of that ice rink, the main one that has now held Europeans, Junior Worlds. So I think because that has created amazing conditions for Estonian skaters. We have three very nice ice rinks in one rink. There's room for ballet, a gym. There's enough space to run. There's also like enough space outdoors. It's a great rink, and I think that has helped so much to develop the sport. And secondly, I just think the success of especially Nina is just a collaboration between her team. She's been with the same team for God knows how long now, definitely over a decade, since she was a kid, really. And that's just her wanting it a lot. And they're just really hardworking people. Of course, there's talent involved, but I think in the case of the really top skaters in Estonia now, it's just hard work, really hard work.
And it's wonderful to see them being able to train in Estonia and working, with Estonian coaches, and some of that story as well, because I think that's often when you see the breakout stars, they're people who have had to, go train abroad and have had that experience. And so I think early in your skating career, in your sort of first run at singles, you were based in Estonia, but then you also have trained abroad. And how do you compare, those different environments that you had?
Well, looking back, I think definitely training abroad, it has its advantages, like, because back then, when I was in single skating was very different in Estonia. Then we didn't have the big rink either, and the whole mentality was a little bit different. There wasn't as many coaches, and just like the access to information wasn't as broad. So I think I was very lucky to be able to get skills and information from elsewhere, like as I trained also in Moscow with Viktor Kudryavtsev at the time, and that was really like the technique that you get from there was amazing. And then later in ice dance to go and train in Michigan with, back then it was Caitlin Weaver, Andrew Poje, Gabriella and Guillaume, right before they went to Montreal. Like I was there training with them. So those experiences are, of course, like, they're so worthy to me. But you can't take away the fact that, like, even at the best place, you're still going to be missing home. And I was a young girl at the time. I was still a teenager, and it wasn't the easiest thing to just try to fit in everywhere. So of course you miss home, and I think that's a really big factor also for these Estonian skaters, that they all do go abroad to train in camps, and like now Misha and Sasha are going to Rafael next week, so they are going, but they go for shorter periods, so they still have the conditions at home to keep up the work that they have done elsewhere. So that's definitely good for them. But I think it's very smart of them to also go elsewhere, but for shorter periods, of course.
Yeah, one of the conversations that I've been having, and I talked earlier this week with Bruno Masso, so this is right on in my mind, about coaching and about sort of the transfer of knowledge from coaches to skaters, and then what skaters learn throughout their careers, and how I think there can be such a benefit to the idea that, if your coach is great, you admire them, you want to be a coach like them, which can lead to that transfer of knowledge, but it also could mean that maybe you learn some not so good methods and then you transmit those on to the next generation as well. And so that there's that balance between the breadth of experience as well as moving it on. And so for you as a coach, among your many roles, what are some of the things that you feel like you have taken from your coaches that you want to emulate, or things that you find that you want to be different as a coach?
Well, I do coaching like it was, I mean, as a skater, it's such a, especially if you're an experienced skater, to be a coach is a very logical thing to do. So I always knew that I like helping out teams with my knowledge and expertise. I never wanted to be a full-time coach. I know it's not for me, also because I have so many other things going on. So as I started coaching, I realized quite early on that my method is definitely, like, I enjoy giving group lessons, but I really want to approach each skater as an individual. I really experienced that in Michigan, when I was training with Angelika Krylova, and she was someone who was really focusing on each skater individually, and that created such a impactful experience for me that I've taken that from there and really, because after ice dance I went back to single skating, yeah, which I did, and then my coach was actually Elena Glebova, who was 5 years older than me. Like, so that's quite a, it was almost like skating with a friend.
Yeah.
And when we started working together, we decided together that she was going to be more also like a mentor, that she would take me as an individual person. And so it worked really well with her doing that. That's really my main thing, is that I try to look at each athlete individually and see what their needs are. And I think technique is something that I know, but I prefer that to leave for other people. And I want the skaters to just have a really good experience training with me. That and also, I think as a coach, of course, all the coaches want their athletes to succeed, but I appreciate those coaches who also realize that it's not only about the result, it's more about what type of people you're growing here. You know, are they going to succeed after in life as well? Because you're giving them the life skills, you're guiding them, you're like the main guide. Their parents might not even be as much in the picture, especially the kids that move abroad. So the coach is really responsible for so many things with an athlete. So to give them a positive experience that then later helps them in life to succeed is, I think the impact there is bigger than some coaches might even realize.
Yeah, and I think that's the question that I always think about is, are coaches prepared and supported for, the role that they have outside of getting results and of, training on the ice, because they have such a huge impact. And I think, maybe they know that from their own experience as skaters, but that isn't always as talked about with coaches.
I believe that, I mean, the coaches that we have at these events, of course, they know like it all, and they've been through also the point where you stop as a competitive skater and then you're like, oh, now what? And then you realize like, oh, okay, my main teacher was my own coach. So you take that information in and you try to move it on to your life. But I think there's I do see that more and more, especially the newer generation of coaches are thinking about more of that also the athletes that they raise and grow, that those athletes would also be good people and successful people, not just in skating, but with everything else, because it is a job also for the athlete. And the better they do, the longer they can stick to it and the longer careers they have.
And you're saying about, the impact of training abroad and of having that kind of high performing life when you're often really young, I think is one of the things that is not unique to skating, but it's definitely particular to skating, that there are the demands on people when they're so young. And so, thinking about your experience and what you've seen from other people, there can be good aspects that can come from having that unusual experience and some things that are challenging. Would you talk a little bit about, I guess, the pros and cons that you see of having such an unusual life at such a young age, and the pressures that can put on?
I mean, my experience is solely based on figure skating, so I can't really compare with any other sport per se. But to be honest, I think it's, for one, I think it starts a lot from the federation. I think the federations should really make it more about trying to give not just the skating education, but life education to these athletes as well, so that they can, first of all, keep the skating career for longer, because we need intelligent, smart athletes who also understand that their health is their biggest asset. So they remain healthy for longer, hence they do the sport for longer. And I think that really starts a lot from the federation and the coaches. So like, instead of trying to get that medal as quickly as possible, that's not really always the case. Like, that's not the way to do it. And I think it's really, like, I find it almost terrible that we are trying to make champions out of very, very young people. And I don't find it right, because, I mean, there's way too many examples of young champions that the next year are out of the picture. They're gone. We don't know what many of them are doing today. And it's just sad, because when they become champions, they generate so much attention, so many fans, and people want to see them. That's what the audience wants. They want to, like, see their skaters. They want to see them on. And because they're the people that come to these events, like, we need these people around. And I think now seeing Luna, she's now entered her third Olympic cycle. Mm-hmm. And like, I don't think people can even realize how difficult it is actually for her to remain at the level she is with her. She's no way near being old, but she is one of the older skaters, and to remain at that level, the work she puts in, the work the whole team puts in to keep her healthy, and like, there's no issue in motivation. She has a whole rink size of motivation, but to keep herself healthy and at that level it's tremendous pressure. But I think she has, especially in Belgium, the amount of new skaters and the amount of popularity she's brought to the sport is immense. And I think that is one of the biggest values that these skaters can provide for the sport, is staying in it and really, like, sort of, and I think they want to stay in it as well, but it's really difficult. And but I think these last years have they've changed skating a lot, because of the whole scene has changed, and there's been a lot of downfall, so to speak, with also, like, I think the popularity in some senses has really gone down, because we've lost a big chunk of skating world, which is kind of closed off now. But on the other hand, I think it's been a bit refreshing as well. So yeah, it's my opinion is that I think skaters should stick around as long as they can. We have Denise Vasilievs as well. Like, there's many skaters that are sticking around for longer because they enjoy it, and they've changed their mindset as well. They just want to enjoy and give it to the audience, because the energy you get back is just, you don't get it anywhere else in life afterwards. So I think that's important to support them.
And just I think about this all the time as I'm lucky to get to know different skaters, the people that I've come to know, more, and then even just the people that I, see in the mix zone, and like appreciating them as human beings as well, and wanting to have that part of the story. You get to see their evolution as athletes and as storytellers on the ice and what they can do over the course of a career. But I think being able to understand them as human beings, and sometimes I always am so happy to see some of the people who have that level of experience and have that, as they get older, able to reflect a little bit more on where they've come from. Because it's often can be fun to talk to the 15-year-olds, but I'm always trying to say, it's okay, you're allowed to say something other than, I'm very happy with how I skated, but I'll do better next time. And I try to get them to talk about their pets sometimes, because it's just, kind of remember, like, well, we do want to see you as that you are a human being. And also,
yeah, I agree. Like, I couldn't agree more. I think the fact that I think this is where social media comes in as well, that the athletes do have a way of actually sharing their life behind the ice, like, they can show what's going on in their life, and that's what the fans want. Like, I'm also in some skating channels on, like, Telegram, and I see how much they're posting, like trying to get the little like behind the scenes shot from a skater, and they go wild for that. Like they want to see that, and I get it. Like it's so interesting because you see the skater put on the show, but you know that there's a person there, and if you know that, oh, like actually Ilya Amalinin loves doing Rubik's Cubics in his free time, like you wouldn't ever guess that. But like when I interviewed him for the book, he's like, yeah, I like doing origami and Rubik's Cubics. Like, how cool is that? Like, can we see that, please? Like, bring your cubic, like, do it. Like, I want to, you know, and it's so cool because then you feel like you can relate to the guy. Like, they don't seem that far off anymore. Like, they seem just humans. And that's also lovely about the sport, that, as you said before as well, like, you can see that we can actually all be friends here, and we're all in the same boat, and we're all just people, like, who love the same thing, you know?
Yeah, I think that's the thing that surprised me the most the first time that I went to a competition, was seeing all of the camaraderie backstage and the way that athletes all do get to know each other and support each other. It doesn't mean that everyone's like best friends, but there's a huge amount of respect, and that is, I think that's a really nice thing. And, you know, when there's, I think it's interesting in some ways watching, go off a little tangent here, and then I'll circle back to where I was planning to take this, but there's, I've been thinking a lot about like how skating is marketed and the ways that we tell the story to people outside of the skating world, and how it doesn't always fit so neatly into maybe a typical sports narrative where, you know, you drive interest through driving rivalries and you know, talking up like competition and like a very kind of aggressive like way of framing sports. And like, not that that can't be part of the story, but I think there's so much more that's interesting to me, certainly about the personal journey of each skater. And as I get to recognize the way that skaters can be incredibly motivated, incredibly competitive, but also supporting each other, is, I don't know, that for me, that makes it more interesting. And I wish more of that went into how we talk about the sport externally as well.
Exactly. I mean, people love the drama. Drama is what like sells partly, but I agree on this, because I do see that, especially now, also that they're taking selfies during the galas and on the podium, and that really brings people together. And I think I think, as you mentioned, marketing, I think there's so much more that can be done there, and also to offer maybe a bit more accessibility to the audience, to like, why not have autograph sessions, like actually like have them, and you know, like, just because I feel like you see the skater for those 4 minutes, and then when they're in the kiss and cry, and that's it. Like we want more. We want more of you guys. And I think the skaters, even when you've had a bad skate, to get that recognition after, like the fans still love you, and you get that after, it really helps you stay motivated. But if you're like performing for an empty audience, and the audience isn't there because the tickets are too expensive or something, like that's not motivating for skaters. Like, they don't do it for that. They love to entertain. We're entertainers, so we need the crowd. And of course, if there's some drama, let there be some drama. But at the end of the day, you see happy, genuinely happy people, and like there's nothing better than that. It's like watching happy puppies on YouTube. Like, that's amazing. Like, who wouldn't like that? You know.
That's the way I felt seeing the Italian team last night, all like dancing and jumping around. It was like, yeah, I mean, you want to support them because you want to share in that happiness. And so then it's a really lovely thing.
Yeah.
I want to circle back to what you were saying about, you know, having the length of a career and young athletes and all of this, because it seems like one of the biggest issues is when skaters, I think especially girls, hit that point of puberty, and there's that time pressure. It's like, oh, well, you have to achieve what you can achieve before your body changes, or it might all be over. And with that can come so many negative things. And one of the things I've seen is like more discussion about that recently. I think more awareness. But I know that's something that you've talked about and you've put in some into your book, and just you're thinking about, you know, what as skaters go through that particular period of their lives that they should be thinking about.
Well, gosh, the transitional age, not just for women, also for men, it's I mean, they don't call it transitional for no reason. It's like, first of all, your body is doing things that like you can't control, for one. And I think that's something that these young girls need to learn early on, is that when it starts happening, you can't really control it. It's hormones. Like, just learn how to deal with your hormones and like just breathe through it, because you can't control it. So that's one. But at the same time, it's also your mind is like, every day you wake up and you have a whole new mood or like a thought. Like, one day you want to skate, the next day you don't. Then you pop a jump, then you hate skating, then you love skating, and then you're like, I want to do it the rest of my life. But it is so much going on, and it's and at the same time, to try to go out there and put out good skates, you have the pressure of your country on your shoulders, basically, to perform. And it's immense for a young person, and it can really transform you for life. Like, that's how it was for me. And I still to this day think I was very lucky with how I formed as a human with all the experience that I had, but it could have gone very different ways. And I think it's so important that the people you have around you would also if not understand, but at least relate or try to understand what's going on. And I think that's really one of the most important things as a coach, that you need to like understand that this girl who's becoming a woman or this boy who's becoming a guy, what they're going through is like nobody can really understand, because they don't understand. So just give them time, and if they're great and if they do great at that time, awesome. But to me, I am definitely like, hands down, I have so much respect for every athlete over like 20, women especially, who are staying, getting better, and bringing new aspects to the sport. Because as you become a woman, you do actually start appreciating different things about skating as well. I think in the beginning, it's much more about the tricks, the jumps, the triples, the quads, all that, which is great. Like, it's a huge part of skating. We need that as well. But as they evolve, become more feminine, and start actually offering new aspects to skating, trying out new styles, I think that is really like for a skater to show so many different facets of them throughout their career. Like, they go from maybe being fully classical, then trying out different like disco musics, different genres. It is so fun to see skaters evolve, and that's how they get fans sticking to them as well. And I think that's a very like, Sasha Salevko is also a very good example of that, because he's been around for a while, and he's someone who's done so many different styles. And of course, Luna is like, I don't think people realize how hard it is to skate a 4-minute program with these triple jumps, skating to Vogue. It is like,
Honestly, I think the duck walk that she does, like down on her knees with the voguing at the very end of the program, might be the most impressive thing in the whole program. The fact that she has the like strength and energy at the end to be able to do that.
Well, that's adrenaline. Yeah. It's absolutely incredible. And I do hope, and I think I see it as well. I think the judges do realize it as well, that skating to a classical piece 4 minutes is very different than skating to fast-paced music with energy and expression. That doesn't come easy. That's not like, I'm gonna smile now. That's not like that.
Yeah, no, and I think it's great to see that just how she's been pushing the boundaries in that way. And just like, that's a conversation that people have been having all season. I feel like every person, like whether they like or don't those programs for this year, like as personal style, I think everyone really appreciates what she's doing by.
I think that's really her goal as well, is to really push the boundaries and show and what can be done. And I think that for her, it was really like doing shows was really what helped her realize that actually she is able to do that. And I think more skaters will follow that track as well, because it's fun.
Yeah, absolutely. You said something in one of your YouTube videos that I thought was so insightful that I actually wrote it down, which was that if you feel insecure about your body and you don't have anyone to turn to, that is where like for you, some of the issues that you dealt with around eating disorders were coming from that moment in your life, and that it can be the turning point for so many people. And just that really made me think about, it's this combination of maybe what's going on in your life, in your body, and the environment that you're in, but especially the importance of that support network that that you do or don't have at that time. And so, it's a hard topic and something you've been really open about, and I really admire that. And there's a bit of this paradox, I think, sometimes with skating, where there's both the normalization and also the shame around talking about eating disorders, about any of these behaviors and struggles that skaters are going through. And so why did you want to share your story? And would you talk a little bit about, for you, how you felt in the culture of skating, talking about this issue?
Well, to start off, from my experience now with the coaches I have worked with or have talked to over time in the last years, I feel like it's changed a lot. The whole body issue topic, I think so much more effort is being put onto healthy eating and good nutrition, and that's admirable, and I'm really happy to see that. Of course, when I was a teenager, the times were very different, and I had during especially my first years of skating and my teenage years, I had a very Russian school type of training system, which definitely grew me as a person, a very tough person. But that's not always great to be so tough. And I mean, like we already know it. It was so normal to get like shamed for your body, like constantly from left and right. Like, you look like an elephant. Like, oh, are you really gonna eat that? Like that was just like, you thought that was normal. Like, that was our reality, and it still is in many cases the reality. And it really, like, especially when you're going through that whole like transitional age where every day is different, like someone calling you an elephant can really leave a mark. And like, I still remember it to this day. I remember the exact moment where one person called me an elephant. Like, I don't think I'm an elephant, obviously, and I love elephants, so it's not really something that like I don't wake up in the morning today and I'm like, okay, Joe, today we're gonna eat healthy because we don't want to become elephants. Like, it's not, nothing like that. But it's stuck with me, and there are people who that one sentence can really derail them, and it can change the whole course of their life, their career. It can have such big results afterwards. And so that was definitely something that was one of the real reasons I wanted to speak openly about this, because today I have no shame about everything that happened. I've learned enough about nutrition today, and I had the experience of being also a healthy skater where I really focused on my nutrition, and I saw what it did to my energy levels and all that. So it was really important for me to just speak about it openly. I had some skaters approach me after, and who I spoke to, and I think it helped them. And I did put it in the book as well, because it's just, whether we like it or not, I don't think this problem will quite go away fully from skating. So yeah, it kind of is what it is. But I think if we talk about it, then more and more people will realize that, especially today, we have access to all types of foods. And I mean, I'm not saying supplements are great, but like, there's supplements. There's so much information today that you can get to be healthy and nutritious. But 15 years ago, it wasn't really the case yet, especially in some countries, like in Estonia. Like, that was a time when I wasn't really Googling things either. So, you just like test things that like kind of work or don't. So, yeah. So at least times have changed. We're more modern now. Now we can actually look up like, oh, what will happen if I'm anorexic? Yeah. Like, back then, like, you're not going to go up to your teacher in school like, hey, what's going to happen if I don't eat for 1 week? Like, now at least we can look it up on our own. And if we're like shelled a bit, we don't want to speak to other people about it, at least we can deal with it a bit more internally before we speak to others. But of course, having coaches or people around you that have this mindset that You cannot gain any weight. Like it's not going to help you. Like it's not going to build any trust between you and the teacher, the coach either. So
yeah, I always think about that, and I think it's one of the things that keeps a lot of people from engaging with skating as athletes or as fans even, because if you think that someone is suffering and making themselves, unhealthy for the sake of, being able to do a triple jump or being able to look a certain way, that's not worth it. I don't want to be part of, making that happen in people's lives, happening in kids' lives, any of that. And so, I think that question is like, are the results worth it for putting people through that? And so that's something I wish I think trying to have people in the broader skating world say that as well, and to have to make it clear to to skaters, and there's a role for everybody, federations, everybody in that that we don't want you to destroy your life for the sake of a result. Yeah.
I mean, the reality is that singles, pairs, ice stands, like the most competitive parts of figure skating, you do need a specific, not need, but it helps you to have a specific physique for it. It really does. There's no denying that. Like, as if you're strong and fast and light, it's like the magic combo. And it goes like this for all sports. Each sport has a specific body type that will help that athlete succeed more. So that's a fact. And that's why it's also like not everyone is that. But I think what baffles me to this day is how much it's forced on kids who maybe they're really not supposed to be doing jumps or lifts. Maybe they're supposed to be doing synchro. And when I was researching for my book, like, of course, I'm so much in the world of singles, and I'm so much in this, but I'm also aware of synchro, and I'm aware of other sorts of genres of skating. But when I was researching for my book, I really it opened up a whole new world for me, which I was so happy to find. And I'm really glad I included it all in my book, because that's today my big drive is to, especially when I work with kids as well, and when I see the kid is really a team person. She wants to communicate. She wants a team around her. She's someone who really doesn't care so much about the jumping. She just really wants to skate, and she wants to compete. Go synchro. Go there. You'll have 15 friends right away, and you'll be happy. And what's the big problem? And that's the thing. Many of us, I don't think we're supposed to. If we like skating, skate. But you don't have to try for the top level. It's fine. It doesn't mean that you're not going to be successful in life.
Yeah, and that diversity of different approaches to skating, it's like the more options that we have and the more different ways of doing skating there are, then the more different people will have in it. From every perspective.
Yeah.
That's the chicken and egg or virtuous cycle or whatever of it is around that. And I think that's going to be super interesting to see what solo dance does as another discipline, and synchro. And I mean, we're struggling sometimes because it's we want to have all of these different options, and then skating is also kind of a small world. And how do we make space and resources for all of these different options? But being able to have so many of different things included is super important. And I've had conversations with people who would like to see, even in singles, to try to see, a different form of judging, so that there might be an option to some skaters might be prioritizing their jumps, and that's their strength. Some skaters might be prioritizing other things, and that's their strength. And to be able to kind of allow for more diversity or changes over a career or that kind of thing, and keep people in the sport. So I think that I'm hearing these conversations from almost everybody right now. I don't know if anyone has the answer, but there's definitely a lot of searching happening.
And I think that's admirable. There's many people who are really just out of their passion, going out of their way to make space for more skating to be able to happen, which is just so great. And I think with social media as well, social media is helping it reach people. So that's really great. But I still believe that because of figure skating being the Olympic sport, it's definitely the driving force for it. So we need to take care of this to make sure that this isn't only related to doping, drama, or injuries and all the bad stuff that is a part of it, to make it seem as if it's not all bad, come skate with us. And then if you don't like this, you can try this. If you don't like that, you can try that in skating. Like there's so many different facets to it. And so I think it's really a collaboration between all the different parts of skating.
Yeah, absolutely. That's such a great transition to talking about your book as well, because I feel like this is what you're doing with your book stuff and show us. The book of figure skating, it is so beautiful, that's not a superficial thing, because like you're saying, being able to talk about and show the many different sides and the positive sides of figure skating is really fantastic. So tell us a little bit about where this book came from and your process and how it's been received.
Well, the book, why it looks the way it does, was also like, I don't know if it's seen on the video, but it's a bit like a off-white, very light pinkish cover with like rose gold foil. And that was also like, this was the first design I did for the cover. And immediately I was like, this is it. Like, yes, because I wanted already the cover to represent like the purity and the beauty that skating is, but also it's glitzy, it's glamorous, it's shiny, it's sparkly. So I wanted, like, as soon as you hold it, you're like, that's skating. Like, to me, that's what it represents. Like, there's of course different colors, and afterwards I did try different designs for it, but I was like imagining an empty ice and someone skating over it with like a rose gold line behind them. Of course, that's not possible, but I was like, that's what it looks like. So anyway, that's how the design came to it. But generally, this book has been in the making for like a decade, I would say. Like, this is like my life's work right here. And there's been many different forms of this book that I've tried in my brain and also on paper. But none of them didn't quite feel like that's exactly what I want to do, because I've had some people tell me back in the day that like, you should write about your experience, and I just felt like I'm able to provide more value if I cover more, and also being able to make it aesthetic and beautiful. I think that's something that was basically, I would say, missing a little bit, because I obviously researched and I've been looking for a book like this, because I love coffee table books, like beautiful, visually attractive things, and I'm a very visual person. So there's not quite anything like this made for figure skating. And I really wanted to create something that is not only for the athletes, but that I wanted everyone to feel included. And I wanted the fans to also have something that is like a beautiful memorabilia for them. Like, the people who bought it here, they asked like, can you please put the date and the location as well? Because they like would put it on their shelf, and then every time they look at it, like, it was like, when I went to Kaunas Europeans. Like, they make the connection, and that's exactly what I wanted this book to do. And I mean, there's been like, I think over 300 hours that I've put to this in 2023. Like, I did it last year. And it's been just like such a, well, one, it was a very stressful period of my life doing this, because there's so much work that had to go into this. But at the same time, it's been so rewarding, because all the people I spoke to for this book, basically all of them were my first choices. Like, when I was thinking of who I want to speak to, the fact that they all agreed was, first of all, I'm so like grateful for all of them. But to be able to make these interviews and talk to them was also so eye-opening for me. I wanted to make sure that what I talk to them about is also something that maybe they haven't spoken about yet. So I wanted to provide new stuff in it. It's all original interviews. And there's like simpler parts like beauty and makeup, which is a huge part of skating. So I brought that in here. It's just like a fun, beautiful part of the book. And then, of course, I was like, so how do I balance it out with the bad topics? So I interviewed a nutritionist in Estonia who's worked with figure skaters and aesthetic sports. And she was kind enough to give me a very open interview about eating disorders. And really, I bluntly asked in the book, and I asked how, what is it with these skaters who it's almost seemingly overnight, become women? How does that phenomenon happen? Because it almost feels like that. You know how you have this tiny skater, and then in a snap they become women. Because and she explained it very openly to me that that's actually it is a bit. She sees it more in skating happen, and that's because we keep ourselves so on low calories and really really tiny. And then at one point, our body just can't take it anymore. They need to expand somewhere. And and it was crazy that this interview was I wish I had that interview when I was about to go through this period. So I think this interview and the whole chapter about puberty and weight management is this is a customized for figure skating. Mm-hmm. And I don't think there's an interview like that really out there. So that's super unique. And there's a small part about me as well, and I think what I've heard from feedback from people is that the first chapter about me really connects it all together. The rest of the book makes so much sense because of my story as well. So yeah, and it's 300 pages. It has all original photos. Oh, there's I think 5 photos that are not mine. All the rest was specifically made for the book. All the texts were made by me. I had an editor who helped me. All the design illustrations are made by another figure skater, and the photos were taken by a figure skater, which is something also that I hope people see that, these other 2 girls that helped me, they're also figure skaters, but now they've done photos and they become a part of something big like this. So the goal of the book, with all that I've said, is also to inspire skaters to find their spot in the world of figure skating. You can start a podcast and make it your career. You can write a book and make that your who you are. That's really who I am now. And there's so many other things. You don't need to become a judge or a coach per se. There's so many other things you can do, and there's many examples of that in this book.
People taking all of that creative passion that they have, and maybe that they were able to show on the ice, that doesn't have to be over when you're done competing or done performing, and finding other outlets for it. No, it's so beautiful. And I think, like you said, having something that is really accessible, that this is something that, that young people could look through and find, the start of information, and be exposed to so many different ideas that then they can go learn more about in the world. So I think it's beautiful. I really hope people are buying it and giving it to the figure skaters in their lives, or all.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a long-term project. I believe at one point many skaters will have this, and I think it is, as you said, it's a really good guide as well. And I wanted people, especially the teenagers, when they read it, to kind of feel that I'm their friend. That because I went through all that they can find some answers here, because I know how it feels to be a teenager. You don't really want to talk to anybody about your problems. So when you read this, you might be oh, Luna actually had the exact same thing, and look at her now. And that's kind of nice, to know that, okay, she's normal too.
Yeah. And that idea that just, that yes, there's there can be this, time pressure, and everyone is getting so driven, and to be a competitive athlete, to dedicate that much of your life, you have to be somebody who is very good at controlling everything and having it be keeping yourself very disciplined and very driven and all of those things. But I think it's also nice to have that balance of, it's okay if not everything happens all at once for you, that there's life after, after competition, that, all of those things, hopefully that can help to balance, with that drive.
Yeah, exactly.
And so are also here with your company, JIV Sport, and so I just wanted to say a little bit about how that part of your life and what you do, has influenced your thinking and your life post skating.
Well, the brand was founded by my mother 20 years ago now. It's 2002 that she did it, and her inspiration was to really give me the skating clothes because I didn't have anything, and at that point there was really no brands around for even sportswear wasn't it was post-Soviet in Estonia, so there wasn't that much to get. So she was sewing me some things, and she was like, "Okay, I'll make the brand," because other kids want it as well now. So that's how it started. And then when I quit my competitive career was when I really joined full time, and I think that is probably one of the biggest support systems for me, going from competitive skater to transitioning to normal life. The fact that I had that sort of a parachute to land with is now that I've spoken to skaters. I spoke to, for example, Sara Furtado yesterday, who is now 1 year out of the competitive skating, and she had a great career. And she said, she's like, one day she wakes up, she's like, "Okay, I'm doing great. I have students. My life is set." And then the other day you wake up and you're like, "Oh my God, I just dedicated my whole life to competing, and now all my friends have kids, and I'm just starting life." It's such a shock. So I was very lucky to have the brand, and I it's really for me, even though it's my job, it's really for me more even a passion, because I can see that has given me a sort of platform to still help skating. We have helped sponsored and helped so many skating teams. This year we gave the whole Ukrainian team clothing. We wanted to give all of them, but they were so humble that they didn't even accept as much as we wanted to give them. So I hope that next season we'll be able to provide more for them. So we gave all the Ukrainian team their clothing. We've done Team USA, we're sponsoring this year. So I mean, these are maybe to the outside they don't even seem as big because it's just a jacket, but to us it's and I think for the team as well, to have their team wear made by a skating company is special. And to me, to just have this that's really given me a platform. And this book wouldn't have happened if I wouldn't have the brand to sort of help me sell it for one. And our goal really is to, well, of course, build a company and make sure we reach a lot of people with our product, because it is a really good product that we have. Our leggings and are made from materials that are just really specific to figure skating. But at the same time, we love skating so much that being at the events and supporting here, and we've been supporting the Estonian skaters for years now, and seeing them succeed, you feel like you're a bit of a part of their success and history. So there's nothing better than that.
Yes, that's so great. And I think, I first had heard about the company because of what Ashley Wagner was doing, with making some skate and sculpt things. And so just, seeing it show up in all these ways, from the national teams to things that people can buy and feel like they are supported in having that, clothing that's made for them as skaters, and all part of the sport feeling important and big.
And that's another way to again show that I wasn't someone who was I was in the national team, but I was definitely not at the top level, and that's fine. When I was still competing, I still had this attitude I'm not going to be anything in my life if I don't make it to the Olympics. That is the attitude many of us have. But then during my career, I already let go. Okay, Olympics is not going to happen. I think it was also because we didn't even have a spot or something. So I was okay, that's not going to happen. So you need to figure out your stuff before you quit, so that and I had a good support system to really face me with the hard facts as well. They were once this is over, you're going to have to start a life. And I think my example is a great example of someone who also has made a career out of I wasn't the highest level skater, but I'm here and I'm continuing to work, and I hope to keep working and sharing my passion and at least having a small impact on the sport is all I want, So So that's kind of nice.
It's so wonderful. Well, I'm so happy that I got to talk to you here, and it's such a pleasure to be able to do it in person.
Yeah.
To get to see the book and everything. I always like to ask at the end if there's anything that we haven't touched on that you want to make sure to talk about or reemphasize, or, the really broad question about what your hope is for the future of figure skating.
Yeah, I was going to say that. I think the last question I had today, what is the future of figure skating? Right? And I was on my way here, I was even thinking, like, if she asked that, what am I going to say to that? And I couldn't really come up with a great answer. So I think I'm just going to say that I think there is a future for figure skating, which is the most important. At one point, I did have this feeling like what is the future? Because there's so much going on in the world that just like, where are we going with this? But being here in Kaunas, seeing the audiences and how this event went, I think the future is, I really believe that the sport is only going to get bigger. And I think it's going to be built on people who think the same way and have the same vision for the future. I think the new generation of coaches are really tackling a new strong era of strong athletes. And that makes me very happy. And I'm happy to just be along for the ride.
Yeah.
So thank you for having me. It's been wonderful. Like, I feel so happy to be here, and I'm happy that you're doing this podcast as well. So I wish you good luck.
Thank you so much.
Thank you again to Johanna for the conversation. As always, the episode transcript and more resources are linked in the show notes. If you're listening to this as a podcast, remember you can also check out the video episode at the Future of Figure Skating YouTube channel. You can also follow Johanna on Instagram at Johanna Allik and check out her YouTube channel at Johanna Allik 7. You can order the book of figure skating at jivsport.com. That's JIV Sport.com. You can reach me with comments or suggestions for topics and people I should talk to by email at fsfuturepodcast@gmail.com or on Instagram and Twitter at FutureFSPodcast. Thanks for this episode go to Ivan Daniluk for editing and technical assistance, and to the ISU and Europeans organizing team for letting us use the press conference room. If you appreciate the podcast, you can also support my work with a tip jar at futureoffigureskating.pinecast.co. Remember to subscribe and review on whatever platform you use, and share it with your friends.